Beneath the glittering heavens of Dubai, where towers pierced the clouds like silver spears and oceans reflected diamonds across midnight shores, Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed Al Maktoum carried a sorrow nobody could photograph. The world admired his fearless spirit, royal legacy, unmatched confidence, and luxurious existence. Yet hidden beneath tailored elegance lived a man quietly collapsing beneath the weight of unforgettable love. Every morning inside the royal palace began with perfection. Curtains opened automatically as golden sunlight entered enormous chambers decorated with priceless art, ancient calligraphy, crystal chandeliers, and marble floors polished brighter than mirrors. Advisors waited patiently outside meeting halls. International leaders requested conversations. Crowds gathered hoping for a glimpse of Dubai's beloved prince. Yet despite endless admiration, Fazza often stood motionless beside enormous windows overlooking the city, feeling emptier than abandoned ruins forgotten by history itself. Because long before loneliness conquered him, there existed a woman whose presence transformed ordinary seconds into masterpieces. She arrived unexpectedly during a private charity event beside the coastline, where soft violins echoed through warm evening air and candlelight danced against calm ocean waves. Fazza noticed her immediately, not because she wore luxury, nor because society admired her beauty, but because her eyes carried something unfamiliar: peace. Unlike others, she never looked at him like royalty. She spoke toward him naturally, without fear, without obsession, without pretending. Their first conversation lasted hours beside quiet water while distant yachts floated beneath moonlight. She asked him questions nobody dared asking before. Not about royal duties. Not about wealth. Not about fame. She asked whether powerful people ever became exhausted pretending strength every day. That single sentence shattered invisible walls surrounding his heart. From that evening onward, Dubai no longer felt identical. Streets glowed differently. Morning skies appeared softer. Music sounded deeper. Fazza discovered happiness hiding inside ordinary experiences: sharing coffee during sunrise, driving silently beside ocean roads, listening toward her laughter while city lights reflected across car windows. For the first time, the prince admired by millions finally felt understood by one soul. Days evolved into unforgettable seasons. Together they escaped crowded ceremonies and wandered through hidden corners of Dubai where cameras never followed. Sometimes they rode horses beyond endless dunes while cold desert winds surrounded them beneath galaxies untouched by pollution. Sometimes they remained awake until dawn discussing dreams, fears, childhood memories, and futures impossible to predict. She became the calmness his chaotic world desperately needed. Whenever royal pressure overwhelmed him, her voice softened every storm. Whenever responsibilities exhausted him, her smile restored forgotten strength. Even silence between them felt meaningful, like poetry written without language. Fazza slowly realized love was not loud possession nor temporary excitement. Real devotion resembled sanctuary, a place where damaged souls finally rest peacefully after surviving endless battles. but destiny rarely protects beautiful stories forever. One winter evening, heavy rain surrounded Dubai unexpectedly. Thunder rolled across dark skies while enormous waves crashed violently against distant shores. Fazza waited inside their favorite private cafe overlooking the marina, checking the entrance repeatedly while untouched coffee cooled upon the table. Hours passed slowly. Midnight arrived. Her phone remained silent. Anxiety tightened around his chest like chains. Then tragedy entered quietly. A single phone call destroyed everything. There had been an accident along a rain-soaked highway outside the city. Flashing lights covered empty roads while paramedics fought desperately against fate itself. Fazza reached the hospital surrounded by security, fear, and unbearable disbelief. White corridors stretched endlessly before him. Machines echoed cold mechanical rhythms. Doctors avoided direct eye contact because sometimes silence explains devastation better than words ever could. That night changed him forever. After losing her, the magnificent city of Dubai transformed into a beautiful prison filled with memories. Every location carried fragments of her existence. Restaurants reminded him of shared laughter. Beaches repeated echoes of unfinished conversations. Desert sands remembered footprints now erased by wind forever. Even music became unbearable because melodies resurrected moments his heart could no longer survive reliving. Still, the world continued moving forward mercilessly. Media cameras captured him attending royal meetings with calm composure. International headlines praised his leadership. Crowds celebrated his achievements. Social platforms admired his adventurous spirit. Nobody realized those confident photographs hid sleepless nights filled with grief powerful enough to destroy entire empires. Inside enormous palace chambers, Fazza wandered alone through darkness carrying old letters she once wrote. He memorized every sentence, every curve of handwriting, every tiny imperfection upon faded paper. Sometimes he replayed her voice messages repeatedly until sunrise colored the sky outside. Other nights he simply sat silently beside large windows watching distant city lights shimmer through tears refusing to stop falling. Months became years. Friends encouraged him toward healing. Advisors recommended distractions. Royal responsibilities demanded emotional discipline. Yet certain heartbreak never disappears completely. Some people leave fingerprints directly upon the soul, impossible to erase regardless of time passing endlessly. One evening, during another lonely horseback ride across endless dunes, Fazza reached a remote desert cliff overlooking Dubai's glowing skyline. Wind moved powerfully through darkness while stars illuminated silent sands beneath him. He closed his eyes remembering her final embrace, her final smile, the final warmth of hands now forever absent from his world. For the first time since losing her, he allowed himself to cry openly beneath heaven. Not as a prince. Not as Dubai's golden icon. Not as the fearless Fazza admired worldwide. But simply as a broken man missing the only woman who ever loved him beyond titles, beyond luxury, beyond fame. The desert listened quietly while sorrow poured from his heart like storms trapped for years. He whispered apologies toward the sky for conversations unfinished, promises incomplete, futures stolen cruelly by destiny. And somewhere within that painful silence, he finally understood something devastatingly beautiful: true love never truly dies. It survives inside memories. Inside old photographs. Inside familiar fragrances drifting unexpectedly through empty rooms. Inside songs attached permanently to specific nights. Inside hearts unwilling to forget. From that moment onward, Fazza changed completely. He continued serving Dubai with strength and dignity, yet his soul carried deeper wisdom born through loss. He became gentler toward suffering strangers. Kinder toward broken people hiding pain behind smiles. More aware that every human secretly battles invisible heartbreak unknown to the world. Sometimes during public speeches, cameras captured brief sadness passing through his legendary eyes before disappearing again behind royal composure. Citizens assumed exhaustion caused those moments. Nobody understood he was remembering somebody whose absence still echoed across every corner of his existence. And during rare rainy nights above Dubai, when thunder surrounded skyscrapers and ocean waves crashed violently against shorelines, Fazza still stood alone beside palace balconies, allowing cold rain to fall against his face. Because rain reminded him of her. Of the woman who transformed a powerful prince into an ordinary man hopelessly in love. Of the soul who taught him happiness beyond wealth. Of the memory destined to remain inside him until his final breath beneath Arabian skies. Far below, Dubai continued glowing magnificently through darkness, beautiful, luxurious, immortal. Yet above those dazzling lights stood Fazza, carrying a love story unfinished by fate but eternal inside his heart forever.